election expenses and election costs, because people won't be raising, hopefully, the same kinds of money. Should this include costs associated with an election that aren't reported at this time as an election expense, the in-kind services, whether it's employment or whether it's goods and services that are provided? Yes, it should. It doesn't. That's the next step. I think it will increase participation. Look at what happened in the last presidential election. Usually Democrats don't raise the same kinds of money that Republicans do. But because they went to the grassroots, they raised hundreds and hundreds of millions more than the Republicans. And they did it at the grassroots, city by city, state by state. And it translated into significant increase in voter participation, and it translated into a new election result. Now, what is obscene about it is that we're getting up into $1 billion to run an election. I think those numbers are ridiculous. But it was built around $100 contributions, not $10,000 and $100,000 and $500,000 contributions. So I think it will increase the participation. And so I think we should move on this, because it is that first giant step for reform. And I'm looking forward in the next term to get the more reforms to make us a more accountable, more transparent, and most particularly a real democracy. And a real democracy doesn't operate under these kinds of rules and the kinds of monies that are raised in the past. We should be able to run elections that are affordable for everybody. I think these reforms and this round will generate a reform in terms of new opportunities for new people and young people to get engaged, both as candidates and as workers and as contributors. And that will likely result in a change that will start in this election and carry on next and future elections with a change in the complexion of this council. And all of that is good, because it's good for democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. The next speaker is Councillor Jenkins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to start by offering personal congratulations to you for your leadership on this issue. I believe that this will be one of your most proud parts of your legacy if this committee passes it today and it goes to council next week and gets adopted by council. So I offer my personal congratulations to you on advocating for this.
Wait till you see the vote, Councillor.
Well, if you notice, I did have the word "if" in there, Mr. Mayor, and so I'm counting on you on rallying the troops here. You know, we've heard opposite views. We've heard the view of Councillor Minnan-Wong and the similar view expressed by Councillor Moscow in the past that basically if we ban corporate donations or union donations, that it will go underground. That simply what will happen is that corporations and unions will give their money to their senior officers, and those officers will then make the contributions. And I categorically reject that. I don't think that'll happen. That is an illegal act now, and it would be an illegal act in the future. And it presupposes that those organizations, people who make those charges, presuppose that those organizations are littered with people who will break the law, and I don't believe that. I think our unions, I think our corporations are basically law-abiding citizens, and they wouldn't do that. And so consequently, Mr. Mayor, you've been quoted in the paper as saying that this reform, and I think you're accurately quoted and positively quoted as saying this reform will eliminate the unfairness of someone being able to make or direct two different contributions. It's in my words, not yours, Mr. Mayor, but it's unfair to let wealthy people of wealth who have positions they can control, monies from two different sources, their own and a corporation or a union, to be able to make two donations. It's simply unfair. And this reform would remove that, would return it to the common man. And as Councillor Walker has eloquently stated, not only the common man, but any common man. And it can be grassroots that can get elected. Anyway,
Members. It's I apologize. I was the one who joked first, but that's where it has to end. Okay? Councillor Jenkins,
Well,
I'm trying to get you the floor uninterrupted. You've got it.
I'm as guilty as anyone here as well, Mr. Mayor. But in any case, I'd like to address another argument that I've heard from various councillors, and it's the argument that $750 can't buy my vote. I'm not a crook. And for the people that make that argument, I'm afraid that they actually miss the point. It's really not that anybody's being accused of being a crook. What we're interested in here is reducing undue influence at City Hall. That is really the crux of the matter. And why are these folks making donations? You simply look at a rezoning application. It can be worth millions of dollars. Like, donors are looking for influence at City Hall, and they should not have undue influence. And quite simply, if we take donations back to individuals, to ordinary people, then those are the people who will be accountable at election time. Now, it is very easy to solicit money from corporations. In fact, I know from personal experience, they will come to you unsolicited and hand you checks for your election campaign. And a lot of us have taken the initiative to return those checks uncashed. It's the appropriate thing to do. And it's much harder to go after and solicit donations from your ordinary constituents. And you have to defend your record. You have to defend your policies if you're an unelected candidate. You have to defend what you're going to do. You're going to have to say what you're going to do for that citizen. And if you're getting most of your money in campaign donations from corporations, maybe those are the folks that you're actually potentially defending. So I would say very strongly that this is a reform that is required. It's required here in the City of Toronto. It's required at the province. It's required really in municipalities all across the country because of the types of businesses we do. And I would urge this committee to pass this unanimously today and on to council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jenkins. The next speaker is Councillor Hall.
Thank you. Well, I take a different view. When you look at the common man is different in different areas. There are areas that are very well-to-do and there are areas that are not. And it is much, much more difficult in areas that are not well-to-do to raise funds from individuals alone. Now, the majority of my money does come from individuals, but not necessarily specifically from where I live, but from people who have known me over the years, and they may have even moved out of Toronto and perhaps live somewhere in Ontario, and they give me contributions. So the concept of the common man does not apply because there is no one type of common man. And the reality is transparency. I agree with Councillor Moscow, who has been speaking on this for a long time. The reality is if you see that a corporation or a union has given you money, you know up front. You don't have to search. You don't have to do all kinds of machinations to figure out who these individuals are and so on. And the people that have given me money, because there's been a few corporations that have, I haven't heard from them, but I certainly hear from my constituents who give me money. Okay? So I do not see myself as being corrupt because I listen to my constituents and I occasionally do the things that they are asking if I feel that they are valid and reasonable. And the same thing would apply if I was approached by someone from a corporation that happened to give me a contribution. I am not going to sell my soul for $500 or even $750, which is seldom that ever happens. But I am not going to sell my soul for that money. So I think it's ridiculous to indicate that we are all corrupt, we are all criminals, we are going to be intimidated by people that give us some contribution toward our campaigns. I probably raise the least of any sitting councillor, okay? And I just do not feel that we should be put in this position. I think things should be transparent. It's more transparent if you say firefighters gave you some money or Corporation X gave you some money. I think that's more transparent than hiding it under individuals, maybe 5 individuals from a specific corporation giving contributions. So at council, if this is approved here at council, I will not be supporting it.
Councillor Fillion.
Thank you. Just first to address the issue of if we adopt the